Is Polestar going bankrupt? Is Polestar in trouble? If you've been reading the news lately, the past few weeks, the past month, there have been a lot of negative news about Polestar and how bad the company is going, about the financials, about the company in general, and about people losing their jobs. So in this video, I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into this subject because lately there have been a lot of articles about how bad things are going for Polestar, and I want to find out, is Polestar really in some big trouble, and are they actually going bankrupt or not? So all of this negative news started with the last quarter of 2023, where Polestar didn't even come close to their goal of selling 80,000 vehicles, hitting only about 55,000 vehicles, which is an increase over 2022, just barely. But what looks really bad is that the last quarter was terrible for Polestar. And then the news started to spiral a few weeks ago. The Swedish corporate bank SEB, the largest corporate bank in the Nordics, previously set the evaluation of the company Polestar to about 18 billion kroner. And now they set the value to, are you ready for it? Zero. Essentially saying that Polestar as a company is worthless. And I don't think a lot of other banks may agree with this assessment, but it made headlines, and it is pretty crazy to set the value of an active company to zero. And then another few weeks ago, we got news that Polestar were cutting like 180 jobs globally, but this wasn't going to, this wasn't going to affect manufacturing or, research and development of new products. But this seemed to be more on the retail side, where they were cutting costs at the dealers. So, a lot of this is, bad news. A lot of this is negative press, but nothing really eye-watering. This happens all the time in the car business, we have ups and we have downs. And then today I read another article and I'm like, okay, now I have to make a video about this and I have to take a deeper dive. So for me, I read this article, and the article is that basically Volvo, who owns 48% of Polestar, is stopping all of their funding for Polestar, which is like, this is not good news in light of everything else. And also they're saying that they're most likely going to transfer their shares in Polestar, this 48% stake, to their parent company, Geely. So the structure is that Geely owns basically almost all of Volvo, I think like 70 or 80%. And then Polestar is around 50% owned by Volvo and 50% owned by Geely parent group. So essentially, Geely does own, Polestar through Volvo, but now it seems like they're going to have more of a direct relationship where Geely is going to take over the ownership stake of Polestar from Volvo. And the headline's pretty sensational, like Volvo just stopping all of their funding and basically pulling out of Polestar doesn't, look very good. I mean, that's not good press at all. And then we had the European launch of the Polestar 4 last week, so we got prices, and I'm probably going to make a separate video on that topic, but I've sat on the configurator, a little bit and checking out the specs, speccing a car, and to me, this car doesn't make a lot of sense. It's really expensive, it's not that practical. Yes, it is bigger than a Polestar 2, but it's almost the same price as a Polestar 3 once you spec it, so I'm not very positive to the Polestar 4. I may be more positive once I actually drive the car, but I think this is a complete fail, a complete blunder from Polestar. So even in my personal opinion, Polestar, a company who I do love, a company that I've done a lot of content on, a company that is close to my heart, is doing some really strange stuff. So let's hop into the different topics here, break them down and see, is Polestar really in some serious trouble or not? So let's start off looking at the sales numbers and sales goals. So sales goal of 80,000 vehicles, actual sales number 55,000 vehicles, which is up from 2022 if I'm not mistaken, but is a far cry from the goal of 80,000 vehicles. So we have to consider that Polestar only sells basically one vehicle, and that is the Polestar 2. Yes, the Polestar 4 was launched last year and production did start towards the end of 2024, but Polestar only were able to deliver a few thousand cars in China. So really, they only sold one car for 2023. And the car they're selling, which is a car I love. I mean, I love the Polestar 2. It's one of my favorite electric cars. It's an old car. It's 4 years old now. Yes, it did get a facelift last year, but some of its biggest flaws is very apparent as there's much more competition now. The interior packaging, like cabin space and trunk space, isn't optimal. And also efficiency, yes, it did get an improvement with a bigger battery, more efficient electric motors, but it's not that competitive if you compare it to the Tesla Model 3, which got a massive revision last year. So I think a lot of people may have bought a Model 3 instead of the Polestar 2, which is a car I absolutely do love. So, I think that's why we see that dip at the end of 2023 in quarter four, is that competition is just so much more fierce. And Polestar, without having the Polestar 4, yeah, they were just not able to sell that many cars. And then we have this whole evaluation from the Nordic corporate bank SEB, which from what I understood, and I'm not a financial analyst, I'm not an economic expert, so take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt because I may be completely wrong. But from what I understood from the articles I read, they're not actually saying that Polestar is worthless. What they're saying is that Polestar had a lot of cash on hand before, and now they've spent it. What they spent it on, I don't know, but the money is now spent, and that's why the evaluation is set that low. But this may ties into the next thing, that Geely seems to be taking over the ownership of Polestar. And this may not be a bad thing, because if we look at Volvo is on a roll. They have a lot of new products coming, and they've been on a roll since like 2012, 2014, after they were actually bought by Geely from Ford around 2010 or 2011, where Geely just, injected a lot of money and let Volvo do their thing. And that has worked, because Volvo last year posted the most profitable year ever. Their company value is at its highest that it has ever been, and also the public perception of Volvo has never been higher. So Volvo as a brand, Volvo as a car maker has never done better than what they're doing now. And it seems like what Volvo want is to focus on Volvo and let Polestar be Polestar. They're still going to, share some research and development. They're going to share, platforms and components. But it seems like that they want to just, cut a little bit of the ties to let Polestar do their thing and let Volvo focus on Volvo. And this may not be a negative thing, because with Geely taking direct ownership of more of Polestar, that may render more funds available for Polestar and them to be more autonomous. This may be a very good thing, actually. So I'm not too negative about this, even though the headlines seem very sensational. And this was also confirmed with a community post that CEO Thomas Ingelot wrote like yesterday, where he assured the Polestar community that this is a good thing, that Polestar are going to be able to do Polestar more the Polestar way. So I don't think this necessarily is a bad thing. This may actually be a very good thing for the company. And then we have all the new products coming. So the Polestar 4 was just launched in Europe. We have the Polestar 3 coming later this year. And then we have a Polestar 5, a Polestar 6. And then we have the new Polestar 2 that's going to come out in 2 or 3 years. So Polestar, yes, a few delays here and there. The Polestar 3 has been delayed about a year. But once these cars are going to hit the market, I think a lot of these may be hits. I mean, a lot of these may just sell really well. Like, I'm really excited about the Polestar 3. I'm really excited about the Polestar 5, which is basically the Lotus Emea, just with a Polestar body and a Polestar interior. Research and development between those two cars have been very closely tied and linked and done in the UK. And I think the Polestar 5 is more exciting than that Lotus Emea. So they have a lot of new exciting cars coming. But with that being said, as I mentioned earlier in this video, the Polestar 4 to me doesn't make sense. I think this may become a flop. I'm hoping it's not going to be a flop, but yeah, like the press release was like, this is a coupe SUV without a rear window. Like, I didn't read any positive thing there, like coupe SUV. Well, it doesn't look like an SUV. It's not a coupe, and it not having a rear window, I don't think that is a positive. Like, it may not be a negative, but it's not a positive. So it remains to be seen. It remains to be tested. And of course, here on the channel, I'm going to test that car as soon as I'm able to get my hands on one. And I'm actually going to the Norwegian launch at the Car Expo here in Oslo next week. So I'm going to do a full tour of that car and hopefully get to test drive that car once it hits Norwegian soil or just anywhere where it's available for test driving. So I don't think Polestar is going bankrupt. I don't think they're in some trouble, but it seems like they're trying to mitigate some losses here. They're trying to, cut a little back on the investments that have been done because they can't just spend money and money year after year. They have to slow down a little bit. But I think we're going to see Polestar for a lot of years. Geely is committed to the Polestar brand, and I think this shows that they actually are. And I think they're going to inject a lot of money, which is going to make Polestar more autonomous, and we're going to see Polestar diverge more from Volvo than what we have seen till date. So guys, let me know what you think about this whole Polestar debacle. Do you think they're in trouble? Do you think they're going bankrupt? Let me know in the comment section down below. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please drop me a thumbs up down below. And for more car content, as always, please subscribe. See you guys later and goodbye.